I can see you're all prepared to go on a field trip.
Yes.
I think for tonight it's a bit too much Gore-Tex.
I agree.
So maybe you can put it
thank
off.
you. That's a mercy.
Take a seat.
I was a little worried I might have to sweat my way through this
Yeah, no, you're fine.
conversation, but
Yeah.
thank you.
Can I help you?
No.
No? Good.
Yes.
This is enough?
Yes.
Well,
That's
I
good.
didn't
It's not
mean it
that
like
kind of
that.
show, I guess.
I mean to protect you against the cold when you're in the Arctic.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Usually, yes.
Okay. Well, I do now recognize, I don't know if we have some pictures also of you.
We do.
That must be you.
It is.
You in the Gore-Tex. So Gore-Tex is the cue. Can you tell me something about what you're doing here? So this is in your field. This is where you do your work?
Yes. So I'm an anthropological archaeologist, and subsistence hunting for food is incredibly important for indigenous people, not only for diets. In Nunavut, Arctic Canada, where I work, at the last census, almost half of households reported going hungry regularly. So hunted resources like seals, walruses, whales, caribou can be a stopgap to hunger. But it's also culturally important to people. And in this image, Solomon Mickey, who's wearing the knit cap, is leading one of these traditional hunts, in this case for seals, small seals, kind of like the harbor seals you might have seen at Pieterburen.
Yeah.
And I am testing out a tailor-made app that we are using to track the hunting in real time across the seascapes.
So you're mentioning indigenous people, you're mentioning traditional hunts.
Yes.
But then you're mentioning apps.
Right.
And also these people, this all doesn't look and feel too traditional. How is this traditional?
Yeah, people might think of kayaks, of harpoons in the Arctic, right? Obviously, this is a motorized boat using modern technology. In this image, I want you to really think about what is going on here. The same activity is being performed, but which one would you identify as traditional?
Yeah, for me, wouldn't be too difficult. I would say the left.
Right. This is an image from the Central Arctic from the 1920s. This is probably a caribou hunt. That's what was used to hunt bows and what was hunted with bows and arrows. And on the right, we have a modern hunt of you can very, very slightly see them in the back, the bearded seals. It's traditional because they're using a bow and arrow, you said, right? A rifle wouldn't be considered traditional.
And no Gore-Tex.
And no Gore-Tex,
yes.
Right? And no motorized boats, et cetera. I would argue that the activities are both traditional activities. They're hunting the same resources in the same environment. The hunt is arguably as important culturally for them as it was then. It's still serving a number of important purposes. The only thing that's really changed is the technology. And our technology has changed dramatically. I've seen all kinds of cameras on hydraulics here that I've never seen before, right?
So tradition is not about conservatism or about preserving or about static methods.
No, traditions
that does not define tradition.
Change, they grow. This is a huge debate in the culture sector about what happens when we collect things like oral knowledge and write it down and make it static. This is something we're grappling with in our data in how we study traditional knowledge gleaned from interviews.
Okay.
Does it take away some of the power of that traditional knowledge when you codify it?
So here you are out in the nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another image that is related to another important question that we ask, which is the nature of nature. Which of these two environments would you consider natural or pristine?
Yeah, I'll ask the audience, would you go with me for left or would you say right? Left.
I mean, I think most people might realize that it's also maybe a bit of a trick question at this point. Yeah, you might think that the image on the left is more natural or pristine, but why would that be?
Well, I think because there's no humans in it.
There are no people in it.
No people.
Right?
Yeah.
When we think about nature, we often couch things in terms of human opposition to nature or natural places, land, sea, and ice scapes. in this case. But should we be doing that? Are humans really so separate from nature? I would argue that the image on the right, which is of a I would say again, traditional Inuit hunting outpost camp in the region where I work in central Nunavut, is as natural as the image on the left.
Okay, so you're studying nature, you're studying the place of human in nature.
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit more about your research? What's your fascination? What do you, when you go out there, what do you really like to know?
Well, obviously the fascination, the theme of the evening, the wonder of what we do, you can see in some of these images. And I debated, should I just, show just a huge slideshow of interesting pictures. Mm-hmm. The natural landscape, and that includes the people within the arena, is incredibly beautiful, and that's what drew me into this originally. What I'm studying now is related to the human-animal relationship. How do people hunt? How have they hunted in the past? I am an archaeologist. So what we're doing is combining a bunch of different methods and techniques to learn about past hunting practices. We're going out, like you saw in the first image, with modern hunters to track how modern hunting is carried out. And we're trying to draw a line between past and present practice in the north.
Okay, and is there something specific about the Arctic? So why do you study it there? Is there some specific question you can answer by studying these interactions there instead of somewhere else?
Sure, partly because people are still hunting in the north for food. The subsistence hunting economy there is still very strong, but also this is one of the first regions to really feel the effects of global climate change.
Okay, yep.
And climate change episodes, climate change is nothing new. Anthropogenic climate change is moving ahead at an incredibly fast pace now. We can document that. But people have also responded to climate change in the past. So we can see and measure how those climate change responses in the past and present were different. And most of those solutions involved animals in some way. Yep. 60 years ago, 100% of the diet in the region where I work was animal products.
Okay. So I understand then you want to learn also how this climate change changes how people interact with their environment.
Yes.
I also mentioned you're an archaeologist, and I have quite a traditional image of that as well. That you go out with the pickaxes and with a brush. Is that how you do your work? You just go there and you start digging? How do you do your work?
Well, first of all, a lot of archaeologists do use pickaxes and trowels and brushes, and it is quite like a lot of the representations you've seen on TV, not all, obviously. But just as traditions change and are fluid, and technology changes and is fluid, techniques within certain fields like archaeology change dramatically. What is so important about archaeology, for the most part, is not things and material. It's where those things and materials are found. Okay. And once that is damaged, an object, for example, is taken out of the ground, you've ruined and destroyed the context. Yep. So the field is moving more towards new technologies that allow us to collect the same types of information without damaging traditional culture, cultural objects, things like drones. GPS is obviously widely used, but other methods as well. Ancient DNA can help us reconstruct genetic profiles of animal species and people sometimes. Isotopes can tell us about what different animals and people were eating in the past. We can learn a lot about old material from new technologies.
Yeah, so that also seems or feels like either you have to work with people in many other disciplines, or you yourself have to kind of expand your knowledge, not solely to archaeology, but to these fields of genetics and of chemistry.
Absolutely.
How does that work? And
generally, I find it works very well. It's quite necessary today for archaeologists to work with biologists, to work with climate scientists and geneticists and many other different fields in order to do our work. The humanities, we are within the humanities, I suppose, but the humanities is a broad church, and when we start working outside of the discipline, it becomes even broader, I suppose.
Okay, so you're studying traditional living with a from the origin of a quite traditional discipline, but everything is moving and you need to adapt. And the field is moving while studying tradition.
The field is changing, not just the technology, but also how people do their work. 15, 20 years ago, the field was full of what we refer to, I guess, as helicopter researchers who kind of come into a community with no local consultation with local knowledge and rights holders. You collect information, whether that's stuff or information directly from people, and then you leave, and there's no accountability.
Okay.
And now most research questions, I believe, should start with local knowledge holders and the people who are most deeply affected.
Yeah, so you no longer come in with, I have an interesting question I want to answer. You really work with the people there of what also their needs or what they want to know, because in the end you're a guest.
Yeah.
You're welcome there to learn.
It's true.
And to bring back that knowledge. I don't want to hold you any longer because I understood you didn't bring this coat for nothing. You're off to a field trip too?
To Igloolik, Nunavut.
Okay, for 2 months I understood.
Yes.
Eating fish, eating seals.
Seals, fish, yeah.
That will be your diet. Thanks so much for sharing this with us, showing how also research across disciplines is very necessary, how you make these long-distance connections, how you kind of maintain relationships so that you can get this very unique knowledge of the indigenous people.
Yes.
And learn something about the human adaptation.
It's a long process, but it's an important one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jean Desjardins.
Thank you.